Hey everyone, welcome to Wednesday's version of Take 5. We're looking at the words of Jesus in Sermon on the Mount, and we're looking at them right before Thanksgiving. I hope you have a really good Thanksgiving day tomorrow. We've been talking about the theme of judgmentalism, of condemning, and it got me thinking, an accusation of Christians that often you hear, I don't go to church anymore, Christians are so judgmental. And I understand that. And some, and perhaps the church at times, has been overly moralistic and judgmental, perhaps. But if the only reason people say that is because Christianity itself, and therefore some Christians, have said, some things are wrong, you have to say some things are wrong. To say greed is wrong, to say that some sexual sins are wrong, that's not necessarily judgmentalism. That's just saying, okay, God has given us a standard of life, and we see a lot of falling down because of that. So it's one thing to hear what God says, 10 Commandments. Go beyond that as well, to what Christ would say about things. It's okay to say there are some things that are wrong. What Jesus seems to be getting at is the issue of being the judge, of being in the place of God, of being the censoring one all the time, and not even taking into consideration the context. For people that are not in a Christian world, for people who are not followers of Christ, yes, the standards of life are the same. God created life. And yet to expect an unbelieving person to act like a Christian person, is that even realistic? Okay, let me bring this now to Sermon on the Mount, chapter 7 of Matthew. Jesus says, you see the speck of wood in somebody else's eye, and you immediately jump at him, and you don't realize the plank of wood in your own eye. Here's a couple of things that are alternatives to judging that Jesus says. He says, you hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye. So first thing to do, instead of judging, instead of being that censoring person, clean up your own act. Instead of looking around at people and society and others and being aghast at the way they live, clean up your own act. Take the beam of wood out of your own eye. First of all, clean up your own act. Secondly, act lovingly and with grace to help others. Not to beat them up, but lovingly and with grace help others. Watch what he says. Take the log out of your own eye. I'm in Matthew 7 and verse 5. You hypocrite, take the log out of your own eye. Clean up your own act. And then secondly, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Do you hear that? Here's the motive. It isn't just to say, you dirty sinner, look what you... No. Assuming there's a relationship, assuming we've cleaned up our own act, now, in grace and in love, you can help that person with the speck that is in their eye. I think that's the way to go. John chapter 7, there is a story of Jesus where he's helping someone that in many ways reminds us of how Jesus responded to someone in sin. Now it's interesting because probably not John, somebody else wrote even further about the story, a beautiful way of acting in a manner that is not censoring to a sinner. Let me just read it and let this take us into Thanksgiving. Again, the bulk of this story probably was not written by John, but it's a beautiful example of someone describing how to love someone in their sin without censoring them. I'll just read it and then we're done. They all went home, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. This is the end of John 7. I'll continue. At dawn, Jesus appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery. Remember this story? They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law of Moses, it is commanded for us to stone such a woman. What do you say?" They were using this as a question, as a trap, in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. Again, probably not written by John. When they kept on questioning, Jesus straightened up and said to them, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and leave your life of sin." I love that story of grace. Jesus was writing on the ground. What was he writing? And were they looking over his shoulder? Maybe he was writing, "Do not judge." Maybe he was writing, "Grace works greatly in people's lives." Maybe he was writing, "Let's love her." I don't know. But that's a great story of the manner in which we ought to not be condemning others. Have a great Thanksgiving. I'll see you on Monday. And shalom. See you later.